Can I ask you something? When was the last time you asked yourself what you wanted before asking everyone else what they needed? Not about what made sense, not what everybody expected, not what was even practical, but what you wanted. And could you answer that question immediately if asked? Hmm. If you're new here, I'm Shwanda Buchanan, and I'm the founder of Centered Courage. And every Sunday, we get together and we have conversations about what it really means to come home to yourself. This week, I've been thinking about something. I don't think most women lose their voice. I think what happens is they slowly stop listening to it. Mhm. Maybe you're planning to get everybody something to eat, and you ask everyone what they want to eat. And you don't even realize nobody asked you what you wanted. Maybe you become so accommodating that you've forgotten what you like, what your preferences are, because you want to accommodate everybody else's preferences and likes. Or maybe when people ask you for your input or your opinion about something, instead of saying and answering the question, you always saying, I'm okay, I'm good, whatever works, I'm fine. But you're not really okay. You respond that way because it's become easier. And what it boils down to is you'd rather choose peace over honesty. You'd rather be approved than be authentic. And you definitely choose your responsibilities over choosing yourself. But when you do this, everyone else's voice becomes louder than your own. So you aren't voiceless, you just simply become optional inside your own life. And you don't lose your voice all at once, it gradually fades the more you compromise. There was a time, though, when you knew what you liked, you knew exactly what felt right. Your intuition had spoke and you could clearly hear it. Your voice was actually your inner compass that guided you and you allowed it. But over time, right, the challenges, the harsh negativity, and the bullying that comes when you speak up became too much for you. So your voice got quieter and it learned its place. You became silent because it wasn't worth the treatment or response you get by speaking up. You didn't want the conflict. You didn't want to disappoint people. And there is less friction when you are nice, when you are agreeable, when you're not difficult. There's less guilt when you don't make something about you, right? So instead of saying what you really think, you just adjust it and remain silent in many cases. But now you're successful. People depend on you. You're managing your relationships, a family, a career, your business, and you've become flexible. And really, you have to. You're dealing with a bunch of different people who need different things, right? You just kind of make things work. You adapt to your situations. And when you do this, people begin to experience you as the easygoing woman, the low maintenance woman. When you're low maintenance, you get praised for that. Mm. You're the woman that doesn't ask for too much. She's selfless, they say, because they benefit from this version of you. That's why they celebrate her, because they're benefiting from you. But you, on the other hand, you're not, because you've abandoned yourself for everybody else's comfort. Everyone else's opinion and expectations become louder because you prioritize everyone else. Their timelines, they dictate your days and how you move around. Their needs, they come first. And whatever's left over goes to you. That's a problem. I digress. You begin overriding yourself. Because you talk to yourself, you ask yourself these questions like, why am I doing this? Why am I enabling this person? Why won't I, take time for me? But then there's another voice that just says, oh, it'll be okay. These people, they need me. You override yourself. And so without realizing it, your own voice starts to move further and further in the background. And then you just stop trusting it. One day somebody asks you, what do you want? And you just get quiet. Because remember, your voice is way in the background. You have to go dig it up to answer. But the thing is, you really don't know what you want. And it's not because you never had a voice, because you did. You once had one and you used it. But it's because you've stopped consulting it. Everyone else's opinion gets consulted. Everyone else's comfort gets considered. Everyone else's expectations get weighed, except yours. And the greatest loss isn't that people stop listening to you. The greatest loss is that you stop listening to yourself. When your voice becomes optional, your needs become invisible. Your boundaries become negotiable. People start wanting to negotiate with you, and sometimes just overlooking your boundary because you won't speak up. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. You just want to keep the peace, right? Your contributions and what you give, it becomes assumed. You assume you're going to do it. And your leadership and how you lead becomes a quiet labor instead of a recognized influence. I was working a job once, and I was a key player on the team, delivering data and reports. But I didn't share much. I didn't talk much or speak up much on the team for a number of reasons. I just kind of went along to get along. I thought I didn't need to speak up or speak at all to be effective. I solved my problems without announcing them. I didn't have to tell everybody I solved the problem. Just solve it, keep it moving. Folks kept going. I delivered results without asking for any help. Just did what I had to do. And so my director, she began to expect me to be quiet. She didn't expect me to speak in meetings or to speak up. I always delivered, and then she would receive the recognition and applause in meetings or in emails. My silence became her convenience, and my competence became a cushion for her. I failed to speak up, and so my voice became optional. And optional made me invisible. I thought my silence was protecting me, but in actuality, it erased me. And looking back on that situation and several other situations in my personal and professional life where I chose the route to be silent, I realized that I wasn't making decisions and being silent for my own voice, right? I was making them from obligation, from survival, and who everyone else needed me to be at that time. And see, this whole thing isn't about you becoming louder. I don't think that's necessary. However, there are times when it says you need to be heard. And if that means you need to get loud, then hey, so be it. This is not what that's about. This is about awareness, right? Like you becoming more aware and being more honest with yourself. Because we all know awareness is the first step to change, right? Your voice isn't missing, it's just buried under years of people pleasing, over responsibility, being agreeable, and just simply surviving. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to pause for a minute and really focus on this. Whose approval are you still trying to earn? Whose disappointment are you still trying to avoid? Because this is the thing. Sometimes we don't lose our voice, we simply hand it over. Mhm. And for me, I don't believe your voice disappeared. I believe she's been patiently waiting, waiting for you to trust her again, waiting for you to choose her again, waiting to become part of you making decisions. Because your voice, it is where your wisdom lives, it is where your boundaries live, it's where your peace lives, it's where you live. Mhm. So, as we move into our reflection, when you make decisions, whose voice did you hear first? And when was the last time your own voice got the deciding votes? Final decision. As you're as you ask yourself these questions, I want you to really allow yourself to go deep and answer them. And then I want you to think about how things would be if you answer them differently, right? Really reflect on them. For this week's courage practice, before saying yes to anything this week, I want you to first pause before you answer. I want you to take a deep breath, and that's you connecting with you. And I want you to ask yourself a question before you answer to that yes. The question I want you to ask yourself is, what do I actually want? I don't want you to judge the answer. I don't want you to explain the answer. I just want you to simply ask the question and hear the answer. Okay? Because every time you listen to that voice within, you're rebuilding trust with yourself. And that's what I think we need here when we're trying to return to our voice, is that trust. We've separated ourselves so far from that our voice, and that we've pushed it so far away that we've lost trust in it because we don't hear it. Okay? You don't need permission to hear yourself. Your voice was never optional. It only became quieter because everyone else's voice became louder. And now it's time that you and your voice get reacquainted so you can hear her again. It's time she came home. As we close, if today's conversation helped you hear yourself a little more clearer, I'd love for you to join me again next Sunday. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel and follow me wherever you're watching. Until next Sunday, choose yourself with courage, lead from your center, and keep coming home to yourself. Talk to you later.